I knew something was wrong the moment I stepped outside and felt the cold morning air hit an empty space where my brand new BMW had been sitting just hours earlier. For a split second, my brain refused to understand what my eyes were seeing. The painted white lines of my parking spot looked too clean, too open, too untouched, like nothing had ever been there at all. But that couldn't be true. I had tucked my car neatly into that spot last night, triple-checking the lock as I always did. I stood frozen, my breath forming pale clouds in the February air, staring at the vacant space as if the car might suddenly shimmer back into existence. A hollow buzzing filled my ears. Then panic-sharp electric shot through me, tightening my chest. I grabbed my phone with shaking fingers. Before I could stop myself, I called my parents. They answered on speaker. My mother laughed. "Relax, Ava. We gave your spare key to your sister." She needed a reliable car. Her voice sounded like someone tossing gasoline on an open flame. Reliable. The word echoed viciously in my mind. Chelsea had crashed 4 cars in the last few years. 4. And now she had mine. I felt the world tilt beneath me, my pulse hammering loud enough to drown out everything else. That was the moment something inside me cracked for the first time. I took a long breath and whispered, "Okay, just give me a minute." Then I hung up and called the police. The wind stung my face as I stood alone in the parking lot, staring at the blank asphalt as if it held answers. My hands trembled so badly I had to tuck them into my coat pockets. I had only owned the BMW for 3 weeks. New car smell still clung to the upholstery, the protective plastic still covered a corner of the glove box. It was the first luxury purchase of my life, something I bought after years of saving, years of telling myself I wasn't allowed to want nice things. And now it was gone because my parents had handed it over like it was a casserole dish. The betrayal sat in my stomach like ice. It wasn't even anger yet, just disbelief. A kind of numb, ringing disbelief that made everything feel too bright, too sharp. My phone buzzed again, and for a moment I considered ignoring it. But when I saw Mom flash on the screen, the numbness broke. "What were you thinking?" I said the moment I picked up. "You gave her my key without asking me." "You weren't using it," she said with that breezy tone she used when she wanted to sound logical. "Chelsea needs to get to work. That salon in Mooresville finally hired her. I don't care if she's driving to the moon, Mom. It's my car." "Oh, Ava, don't start. You always get dramatic about things that don't matter. Family comes first." There it was. The line she'd recited my entire life. Family comes first. As if that justified anything. As if that excused everything. As if that meant my feelings, my boundaries, my property didn't matter at all. "She took my car without my permission," I said through clenched teeth. "That is the definition of stolen." My mother scoffed so loudly I had to pull the phone back an inch. "Ava, don't embarrass yourself. It's not stolen if your sister has it." People like her said things like that. People who convinced themselves that wrong actions magically became right if they benefited the golden child. "Where is she now?" I asked. "I don't know. Probably driving to work, or staying with one of her friends. She mentioned something about being out late last night." I closed my eyes. "So she took my car in the middle of the night, when I asked. Around 11. Your father gave her the spare key. We didn't wake you because we knew you'd make a fuss." My breath caught. They had come to my apartment, stood outside my door, handed my key to someone who had totaled more cars than she'd kept, and walked away without even knocking. I suddenly felt very cold. "I'm calling the police," I said quietly. "Ava," my mother snapped. "Don't you dare," I ended the call. Officer Ramirez arrived 15 minutes later. She was calm, efficient, no nonsense, a grounding presence in a moment when my mind felt like a spinning coin refusing to settle. She listened while I explained everything, her pen scratching across her notepad. "So, your parents entered the property last night, gave your spare key to your sister, and she drove off with your BMW," she repeated. "You didn't give permission to your parents or your sister. And your name is the only one on the registration, yes. And you believe your sister's driving history puts your vehicle at risk." A humorless laugh escaped me. She's destroyed 4 cars in the last 5 years. She wrapped one around a pole after a party. She rear-ended a parked truck because she was putting on mascara. She's reckless. Always has been. Officer Ramirez nodded. All right. Before I file this, I have to ask, are you sure you want this in the system? Once we classify your vehicle as stolen, any officer who encounters it will stop the driver. That driver, your sister, will be detained. I thought of my mother's laugh, my father's silence, Chelsea's history of smashing her life into anything that got in her way. I thought of the empty parking spot, the hollow in my chest. Yes, I said, I'm sure. She entered my license plate into the system. Stolen vehicle, active alert. The moment she pressed the button, a strange, unexpected sensation flooded through me, not fear, not guilt, but relief. As if I had been carrying something heavy for years without knowing and had finally set it down. My phone vibrated. Chelsea. I almost let it go to voicemail, but curiosity overpowered caution. What the hell, Ava, she barked the moment I answered. Mom said you're throwing a fit about your car. You took my car without asking. I asked Mom and Dad. Same thing. No, I said quietly. It's not. She huffed. Gee. Oh my God, you're such a control freak. I needed it. It's not like you were using it. You can Uber to work. My jaw tightened. Where are you? None of your business. I'll bring it back when I'm done. No, I said again. You need to bring it back now. Why are you going to tell the cops? She mocked. You don't have the guts. The officer is standing right next to me. Silence. A hard, heavy silence. You're lying. I'm not. Another silence. Longer. Then her voice shifted, uglier, sharper. You've always been jealous of me, she spat. You can't stand that Mom loves me more. I almost laughed, not because it wasn't painful, because it was so familiar. The lines, the accusations, the roles we'd all been trapped in for decades. Chelsea. I said, bring back my car. No. She hung up. Officer Ramirez raised an eyebrow. She's not coming back willingly. No, I said. She isn't. We'll find it. 4 hours later they did. My phone rang at my desk, and I bolted upright before the first vibration ended. We located your vehicle, Officer Ramirez said. You'll want to come see it. My coworker Denise drove me to the impound lot. I felt numb the entire ride, my hands cold, my throat tight. When we arrived, my eyes fell on the BMW before the officer even spoke. The front bumper was crushed inward as if something had hit it head-on. Deep scratches carved through the passenger door. The side mirror dangled, cracked straight through. The back window had a diagonal crack like a lightning strike. What happened? I murmured, stepping closer. It appears your sister was involved in a collision, Ramirez said. Possibly more than one. Inside the car was worse. Fast food wrappers littered the floor. An oily stain spread across the back seat. The faint stench of cheap liquor clung to the upholstery. My brand new BMW looked like it had been through a demolition derby. My phone rang. My mother. Ava, she said, panic in her voice. Chelsea says the police are after her. Tell me this is some misunderstanding. It's not, I said flatly. She stole my car and destroyed it. Destroyed. What do you mean? Destroyed? Chelsea didn't mention damage. Of course she didn't. You need to stop this, my mother insisted. This is tearing the family apart. I didn't tear anything apart, I said softly. It was already broken. You just didn't want to see it. My mother sucked in a breath. Ava, you're being cruel. No, I said. I'm being honest. I ended the call. For the first time in my life, I didn't apologize afterward. Insurance was next. A middle-aged adjuster named Gilbert walked around the car, shaking his head slowly. Front structural damage, keyed down the side, back glass fracture, oil contamination on the interior. Yes, this is significant. How significant? I asked quietly. He looked at me with sympathetic eyes. Potentially total loss. I inhaled sharply. A gust of wind blew across the lot, and for a moment I felt suspended between fury and freedom, grief and possibility. Chelsea's voicemail came later that night. So you actually did it, she sneered. You called the cops on your own sister. Hope you're happy. Mom says you're destroying this family. You always were cold. You always will be. I saved the voicemail. Later, lying in bed staring at the ceiling, something inside me settled into place. A truth I had been circling for years without naming. I had spent my entire life trying to earn the love of people who only understood taking. Now, for the first time, I had chosen myself. And I wasn't going back. I sat on the edge of my bed, long after midnight, my phone still warm in my hand from the last voicemail Chelsea had hurled at me. The room was quiet, except for the faint hum of the heater, but my mind felt anything but quiet. I kept seeing the empty parking space, the cracked window, the resignation in Officer Ramirez's face. I had always believed things like this happened to other families who were loud, chaotic, visibly fractured. But not mine. My parents always projected an image of steadiness, of being respectable, of being proper. Yet under that polished surface was a rot I had ignored for far too long. When my alarm buzzed at 6 the next morning, I felt like I hadn't slept at all. My body moved automatically through the motions: shower, quick toast, makeup, hair tied back. But my mind kept drifting back to the impound lot. To the car that didn't even look like mine anymore. To the voicemail I had replayed twice, not because I believed Chelsea said anything worth hearing, but because I wanted to understand how someone could twist a story so viciously. At work, nothing felt normal. Emails blurred, conversations faded, my coffee tasted sour, and every time my phone vibrated, even once for a grocery store coupon notification, I jumped. By mid-morning, I couldn't pretend to focus anymore. I stepped into the hallway, leaned against the cool wall, and covered my face with both hands. My coworker Denise found me there. "You okay?" she asked gently. I wanted to say yes, to offer the usual practiced smile, to pretend I wasn't unraveling. But the truth pushed through. "My sister stole my car," I whispered. "And my parents gave her the key." Denise blinked, stunned. "Your brand new car," I nodded. "Oh, Ava." She stepped closer and touched my arm. "I'm so sorry." It was the first kind, uncomplicated sympathy I had received since the whole nightmare began. I swallowed hard, emotion tightening behind my ribs. "I don't know what I'm supposed to feel," I admitted. "Angry," she said without hesitation. "You're supposed to feel angry." But anger wasn't what filled me. It was something more numbing, something closer to grief. I didn't stay at the office long. My concentration was gone, and every tick of the clock felt like sandpaper against my nerves. I told my supervisor I needed a personal day, grabbed my coat, and left. Outside, the February air was crisp, the sky a washed-out blue. I pulled my collar tight around my neck as I walked to the bus stop. Without my car, the commute home felt strangely exposed, as if I had been pushed backward in time, back to my early 20s when I took the bus everywhere and felt invisible and overlooked. When I got home, I stood in the doorway of my apartment and let the silence settle around me. It felt heavy, but not suffocating. More like a silence that had been waiting for me to finally listen. My phone buzzed. "Mom." I let it buzz until it stopped. A moment later, it buzzed again. "Dad." And then, unbelievably, Chelsea. I turned the phone face down on the counter. I needed space to think, to breathe, to understand what to do next. I made a cup of tea and sat at the kitchen table. Steam curled upward in thin, quiet threads. For a while, I just watched it, letting the warmth settle into my hands. It grounded me enough to begin sorting the tangled threads of what had happened. My parents had come onto my property unannounced. They had given my spare key to a woman who had totaled cars like most people misplace pens. They hadn't called. They hadn't asked. They hadn't even left a note. And yet they expected gratitude. They expected silence. They expected me to swallow my discomfort like I had swallowed countless unfair things growing up, like when Chelsea threw a hairbrush at my face, and my mother told me, "You know how emotional she is." Or when Chelsea crashed the family SUV into a mailbox and my father said, "Don't be upset. She already feels bad." Or when Chelsea destroyed my favorite necklace as a kid and my parents excused it with, "She didn't mean it." There had always been a reason to forgive her. There had never been room for my feelings. My chest tightened. As a child, I had believed the imbalance was love, that they needed more energy for her because she was fragile. But now as an adult, the truth looked different. They had let Chelsea become unstoppable because they had never stopped her. And now she had crashed through my life like she did with everything she touched. My tea cooled. I didn't drink it. Around noon, a knock sounded at my door. Sharp, hesitant. I froze. For a heartbeat, panic flashed through me. Someone had been in my parking lot last night. Someone could have seen Chelsea take the car. Someone might know where she lived now. Someone might have followed her. I stood completely still. Another knock. Ava, it's Officer Ramirez. My spine loosened slightly. I opened the door. I wanted to check in, she said. I know yesterday was a lot. Her voice steady and unapologetically grounded was a relief. Do you have an update, I asked? Not yet. But we will. I did want to go over your official statement with you. She stepped inside, and for a moment I felt strangely self-conscious about my apartment. The neatly stacked books, the spotless kitchen, the soft gray throw blanket folded on the sofa. My life was built on order and responsibility. My sister's life was built on chaos. My parents had always loved her chaos more than my stability. Ramirez sat across from me at the dining table and reviewed her notes. You said your parents gave your sister the key around 11 p.m. last night? Yes? And your parents didn't attempt to notify you, call, text, knock, anything? No. She nodded. It's extremely unusual for someone to access another adult's property without consent, let alone hand over a vehicle. This is a clean case. Your decision to file makes sense. Her reassurance struck something deep inside me, a part of me that had been trained for years to question my right to boundaries. Do people really do this? I asked softly. Families, I mean. Do they treat each other's property like it doesn't matter? Ramirez's expression softened. More than you'd think. Sometimes the most complicated cases aren't strangers. They're relatives who believe they're entitled to someone else's things. Entitled. That word fit perfectly, like a puzzle piece clicking into place. My phone buzzed again. I didn't check it. Take your time with this, she said as she stood. And don't answer calls that upset you. You're not obligated to manage their emotions. A simple statement, but it felt revolutionary. When she left, the apartment felt quieter but not empty. Quieter in the way that meant something had shifted. The afternoon passed in a series of small, deliberate actions. I made lunch but didn't eat more than a few bites. I folded laundry. I opened my laptop intending to check work emails, then closed it again. My mind kept drifting to the same unsettling place. What if Chelsea crashed into someone else? What if she hurt someone? What if this went beyond property damage? That fear festered, and with it came a strange, unexpected grief. Not for the car, but for the version of me who still believed my family would someday treat me fairly. By late afternoon, sunlight slanted low across my living room floor. I picked up my phone, hesitated, then opened my parents' message thread. There were 12 missed calls. A string of texts from my mother, Ava. This is unnecessary. You're overreacting. You know your sister struggles. You should be supporting her, not punishing her. This is not what family does. Not once did she ask how I was. Not once did she acknowledge what they had done. It was like staring at a map and finally seeing all the wrong turns, all the dead ends, all the circles. My father had sent only one text. Call us. We need to talk. I didn't reply. I turned off my phone completely. Evening crept in slowly. I sat on my couch, knees drawn up, staring at the blank TV screen. Outside, streetlights flicked on one by one. A dog barked in a neighboring building. Someone laughed in the hallway. Life continued undisturbed. For the first time that day, I let myself breathe deeply. I wasn't losing my mind. I wasn't being dramatic. I wasn't wrong. My car had been stolen. My trust had been broken. And I had the right to defend myself. That realization unfurled inside me like a quiet flame. At 7 p.m., the apartment buzzer startled me. My heart jumped. I pressed the audio button. "Yes, Ava, it's Denise." Relief washed over me. I buzzed her in. She came up with a plastic bag of groceries dangling from her wrist. "I figured you didn't eat today," she said simply. I blinked, touched beyond words. "Thank you." We cooked together well, she cooked, while I hovered uselessly. She made pasta and roasted vegetables, and for the first time in 24 hours, food tasted like something other than cardboard. After dinner, she asked, "Do you want to talk about it?" And strangely, I did. I told her everything. The favoritism growing up. The excuses my parents made. The ways Chelsea had coasted through life without consequences, while I was expected to be the reliable one, the steady one, the one who swallowed everything quietly. Denise listened without interrupting, eyes full of empathy. "When you called the police," she said softly, "that wasn't betrayal. That was survival." A lump formed in my throat. "You know," she continued, "some families confuse love with possession. They think because you belong to them, they get to decide what you should give up." I nodded slowly. "That's exactly what it feels like." "You're allowed to protect yourself," she said, "even from them." After she left, I stood at my window and watched the lights of the city flicker in the distance. Charlotte had always felt like a place where people reinvented themselves. Maybe I could reinvent myself too. At 9 p.m., I plugged my phone back in and turned it on. Notifications flooded the screen, buzzing nonstop. I watched them come in unread. Then I silenced them and placed the phone screen down. The world outside dimmed to a gentle hum. My apartment felt different, not bigger, not emptier, but mine. Entirely mine. And as I curled beneath my blanket, exhaustion finally pulling me under, I held on to a single, steady thought: I wasn't done being afraid yet. But I was done being controlled. The call from Officer Ramirez came just before lunch, right as I was staring blankly at my computer screen pretending to work. My phone vibrated once, then again, and when I saw her name, my stomach twisted sharply. "We found your vehicle," she said as soon as I answered. "I think you should come in person." My breath hitched. "Is it drivable?" A pause. "It's best if you see it yourself." The tightness in my chest spread until it felt hard to breathe. I grabbed my coat, told Denise I had to go, and left the building. She offered to drive, and I didn't argue. My hands were shaking too badly to hold a steering wheel. The impound lot sat behind tall chain-link fences, strung with barbed wire rows of damaged vehicles lined up like casualties from a silent war. The air smelled faintly of oil and cold metal. Something inside me recoiled at the idea of my beautiful BMW sitting here among these broken machines. Ramirez waited near the entrance. When she saw me, her expression softened. "I need you to prepare yourself," she said quietly. "I'm fine." I lied, because admitting anything else felt like weakness. But the moment she led me deeper into the lot, dread pooled in my stomach. And when she stopped walking, when my eyes followed the line of her arm toward a familiar silver shape, the air punched out of my lungs. My BMW didn't look like my BMW. The front bumper caved inward as if it had struck something hard head-on. Scratches gouged the paint along the passenger side, jagged long lines like someone had taken a key to the surface. The driver's side mirror hung loose, cracked clean across the center, and the rear window held a spiderweb crack stretching diagonally as though something heavy had slammed into it from inside. I stepped closer on unsteady legs. Every detail hurt. What? What did she do to it? My voice scraped out of me. Ramirez shook her head. "Based on the damage, it appears there were multiple impacts. Possibly a minor collision, then scraping along a narrow space. There's interior damage, too." Interior. The word chilled me. I opened the driver's door. The smell hit first: stale food, spilled alcohol, something sour beneath it. Fast food wrappers littered the floor, crumpled napkins, an overturned cup sticky with dried soda. My brand new leather seats bore an oily, dark stain across the back bench. I ran my fingertips across it instinctively and immediately regretted it. Whatever it wasn't edible. She must have had people in here, I whispered. The thought twisted something inside me. Why would she? Ramirez crouched to pick up a small scrap of paper wedged between the center console and the seat. She held it up so I could see the rushed, uneven handwriting. Don't tell her. I'll fix it later. My mouth went dry. It was Chelsea's writing. I knew it instantly. The messy, slanted letters. The way she crossed her T's with a little upward flick. She knew she damaged it, I said. She knew before she abandoned it. Ramirez didn't dispute it. And this, she added, pulling something else from the door pocket, a receipt from a dive bar on the outskirts of Charlotte, time-stamped at 1:47 a.m. Is this a place she'd normally go? No, I said automatically. But then again, I hadn't known much about her life in years. She floated from job to job, couch to couch, relationship to relationship. She used to joke that responsibility was too boring to bother with. Now, seeing the wreckage of my car, the joke felt cruel. My gaze drifted to the back seat again, to a torn canvas tote bag lying on its side. It had a jagged rip along the seam, as if something heavy or sharp had been shoved in too forcefully. Empty now, but still leaving behind a faint outline on the upholstery, a rectangle the shape of some kind of box. Was something stored in that, I asked. Possibly, Ramirez said. We can't be sure. But goosebumps rose along my arms. I remembered the crack in the rear window, the strange pattern that suggested force from the inside. What had Chelsea been carrying, and why had she thrown it away before running? I felt suddenly exposed, as if I were standing in the center of someone else's danger without knowing the rules. A car door slammed somewhere behind us. I flinched, my heart jumping. Let's go over the official documentation, Ramirez said gently, as if sensing my spiraling thoughts. I followed her as she walked around the BMW, photographing every angle. She narrated the damage for her audio log terms, like structural compromise, lateral scraping, possible intentional markings, glass fracture from internal force. Each phrase felt like another knife turning slowly. When she finished, she stepped back, giving me space. I wish I had better news, she said. But the vehicle is significantly damaged. You'll want to file your insurance claim as soon as possible. I already called them, I murmured. They're sending someone today. Good. And Ava, I need you to know something. I looked up. We see a lot of stolen car cases. Most involve strangers. But sometimes her gaze softened. They involve people the victim trusts. Those cases are often the hardest emotionally. You're not wrong to feel what you're feeling. My throat tightened unexpectedly. I nodded because speaking felt impossible. She gave my shoulder a light squeeze before walking back toward her patrol car. I watched her go, feeling both steadier and more unmoored than before. A few minutes later, a man in a navy jacket entered the lot carrying a clipboard and camera bag. He introduced himself as Gilbert, the insurance adjuster. Let's take a look, he said, stepping toward the BMW with the weary resignation of someone who had seen too many ruined vehicles. He began outside, measuring dent depth, photographing angles, crouching low to inspect the undercarriage. I stood nearby, arms wrapped tightly around myself, trying not to interpret every grimace on his face. This bumper damage, he said, eventually tapping the crushed metal, suggests a collision with reasonable force, not a parking scrape. She must have hit another car, I said. Possibly. Or a pole, hard to say. He moved on. These scratches, they're deliberate. The consistent depth indicates someone keyed it or scraped it with intention. My stomach twisted. And this, Gilbert pointed at the cracked rear window. Impact radiates from inside the cabin. Something hit it hard. I thought again of the torn tote bag, the missing box. My skin prickled. Inside, he cataloged the stains, the wrappers, the melted patch on the plastic console. He photographed the torn bag, nodding thoughtfully. Something box-shaped was here recently, he said. Whatever it was left indentations in the upholstery and a small crease on the floor mat. What does that mean? I asked. He hesitated. It means this wasn't just reckless driving. Someone was transporting something they didn't want found. I swallowed, my throat suddenly dry. And because the car was stolen, your insurance should classify this as a stolen vehicle recovery claim. Depending on repair estimates, you may qualify for a total loss payout." "A total loss," I whispered. He nodded. "There's structural damage frame concerns and extensive cosmetic issues. The estimate may exceed the vehicle's value threshold." A strange mix of emotions rose in me, weight and weightlessness colliding. I didn't want my car destroyed, but I did want closure, and I wanted anything returned to me after all this chaos. "When will you know for sure?" I asked. "I'll file my report today," he said. "You should hear within a week." He offered a small, sympathetic smile. "I've seen cases like this. Not often, but when they involve family, they cut deeper." I nodded. It cut beyond deep. It felt like it reached straight into the bone. As he packed up his equipment, a sharp gust of wind blew across the lot, carrying a faint metallic smell. I looked at my once perfect BMW and felt a hollow sadness, not for the car itself, but for what it symbolized: my independence, my effort, my one tangible reward for years of working hard and never asking for anything. And Chelsea had taken it like it was a freebie. My phone vibrated. The screen flashed "Dad." I didn't answer. Then Mom, then Chelsea, then an unknown number. I let them all ring. Ramirez walked back over her expression, more serious than before. "We just received a radio alert," she said, quietly. "There's been a possible sighting of your sister's description heading toward Rock Hill. We're coordinating with South Carolina authorities." "Rock Hill," I repeated. "Why would she go there?" Ramirez hesitated. "People who abandon stolen vehicles often do so when they believe law enforcement is closing in. It's possible she's trying to get out of state." My heart dropped. "She thinks I'll withdraw the report," I said hollowly. "That I'll clean up the mess. Like I always do." "Will you?" Ramirez asked gently. I shook my head. Something in me solidified, then something that had been soft and uncertain for most of my life. A voice I didn't recognize yet, but knew instinctively belonged to me. "No," I said. "I won't." Ramirez nodded once. "Then we'll take it from here." As she walked away, I turned back to the BMW one last time. The cracked glass reflected the cold winter sky, and for a strange moment I saw myself in that reflection, fractured but still standing. I placed my hand on the dented metal, a quiet farewell to the thing I had worked so hard to afford. Then I whispered more to myself than anyone else, "This ends now." And for the first time since this nightmare began, I almost believed it. I drove to my parents' house with a hollow steadiness, the kind that rises when fear has burned itself out and leaves something sharper behind. Their neighborhood looked as serene as ever: large porches, trimmed hedges, pastel shutters, all pretending safety, pretending harmony. It was a strange thing driving down the familiar street in a borrowed car instead of my BMW, a reminder of everything that had been taken from me in a single night. When I pulled into their driveway, the house looked painfully unchanged, as if the world inside it had not tilted off its axis. My mother opened the door before I even knocked. Her mouth was already tight with irritation, not relief. "Ava, this is not a good time," she said, crossing her arms. "We need to talk," I replied. "I'm not leaving until we do." For a moment she seemed ready to slam the door, but something in my face must have stopped her. She stepped aside reluctantly. My father hovered in the background, his expression unreadable. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and coffee, normal, familiar, almost comforting. But today the air felt too still, like the walls were holding their breath. My mother didn't wait for me to sit before she began. "You've caused a complete disaster. Your sister is terrified. The police are involved. This is exactly why we didn't tell you we gave her your key. You always make things so dramatic." The words hit me with the familiarity of a bruise pressed too many times. "She took my car," I said evenly. "You helped her do it." My mother waved a dismissive hand. "It's just a car. She needed it more than you." I stared at her. "She needed my car. The car I've worked years to afford. The car I'm still making payments on. The car I didn't give permission for her to use. You weren't using it, she snapped. And she has a harder life, Ava. She's been struggling ever since the divorce, and now she finally got a chance at a decent job. She needed something reliable. A bitter laugh escaped me. Reliable. She's destroyed 4 cars. That was bad luck, my mother insisted. It was negligence, I said. Reckless behavior. A pattern. The silence stretched for a moment before she said, "You've always been jealous of her." I blinked. Jealous? Yes. Ever since you were little. You hated when she got attention. I felt something in me shake loose, something old and raw. I didn't hate it. I hated that she got attention for ruining everything while I got ignored for keeping everything together. My father cleared his throat. "Let's calm down." "No," I said, turning to him. "I'm tired of calming down. This is 30 years of calming down." My mother scoffed. "Don't be overdramatic. This is all about the car, isn't it?" "No," I said quietly. "It's about everything." The air shifted. Even my father seemed to feel it. "You let her do whatever she wanted," I said. "Break things, lie, manipulate, hurt people. And every time she did, you made excuses." "She's emotional. She's fragile. She's going through something." But me, I never got to go through anything. I was the steady one, the responsible one, the invisible one. My mother's eyes hardened. "Don't rewrite history. We supported you both." "Did you?" I asked. "When I worked 2 jobs to get through school because you said money was tight while you paid for her apartment after she dropped out of college. When I saved for years to buy my car while you replaced hers every time she crashed one. When she totaled Dad's truck after drinking and driving and you covered the legal fees to keep her out of trouble. Did you support me then?" My father's gaze flickered. My mother's face went pale. "That was different," she said weakly. "How she needed us more." I let that sink in. It wasn't new, but hearing it spoken aloud was something else entirely. "So my needs don't matter," I said. "That's what you're saying." She hesitated. "You were always more capable. You didn't need the same kind of help." "And she did." My mother's voice rose slightly. "She's your sister Ava. You're supposed to help her." "I did help her," I said. "My whole life. And she took advantage of it. And you helped her do that too." For the first time, my father spoke quietly. "She's been going through a lot. You know she had a tough year. So I should sacrifice my property, my safety, my sanity?" "Because she had a tough year," I asked. "Because you didn't teach her how to handle anything on her own." My mother bristled. "She is trying." "No," I said softly. "She's running." My father looked away. I took a slow breath. "Why did you give her my spare key? Why my car?" Why that night my mother glanced at my father and something uneasy passed between them. "Tell me the truth," I said. "She said someone was bothering her," my father murmured. "Someone she owed money to. She said switching cars would help her buy time." My heart kicked against my ribs. "She owed money to whom we don't know," he said quickly. "She just said she was scared." "And you decided my car should be the solution?" I asked, incredulous. "We didn't think she'd damage it," my mother said defensively. "We didn't think she'd run off with it. We were trying to help her." "You didn't think," I said. "You never think when it comes to her. You react, you rescue, you cover up, no consequences, no accountability. And now here we are." "She was scared," my mother repeated. "So was I snapped, standing in an empty parking lot thinking my car was stolen. And it was stolen. By someone you helped." My mother's eyes shimmered with frustrated tears. "This isn't who you are, Ava. You don't call the police on family. You don't do this." "No," I said again. "I don't. But I should have. Years ago." My father pressed a hand to his mouth as if trying to hold back a truth. "Tell me everything I demanded." My mother flinched. "There were incidents," my father said slowly. "Financial troubles. A few bad relationships. People showing up at the house looking for her. We paid them to leave." "What kind of people?" My voice was barely above a whisper. "Ava," my mother said sharply, Don't twist this." "What kind of people?" I repeated. My father looked pained, the kind who make threats. My skin prickled. "And she brought them to my apartment. Did she give them my address too?" "No," my mother snapped. "We never told her. But she had the key," I said. "She could have come at any time. She could have brought anyone." My mother's silence told me everything. A cold realization slid down my spine. "You didn't care what it cost me, as long as she got away." My mother's voice cracked, brittle and defensive. "We didn't know she would damage it that badly." I stared at her. "What do you mean?" I asked, slowly. "That badly?" Her face tightened, the words already escaping before she could catch them. "We knew she might have a mishap or two. But we didn't expect." I took a step back. "You knew, Ava. You knew she was likely to damage it." I said, my voice trembling now with something deeper than anger. "You knew, and you still gave her my car. And you didn't tell me." My father closed his eyes. My mother pressed her lips together. "It wasn't supposed to go this far." "This far," I echoed. "She stole my car, she wrecked it, she abandoned it. She dragged me into whatever mess she's in, and you're upset because it went too far." My mother's chin quivered. "We were trying to protect her." "And who was protecting me?" Silence. Dense, suffocating silence. For the first time in 30 years, neither of them had an answer. I took a breath that felt like breaking through water after being underwater too long. "I'm done," I said. "I'm done cleaning up her messes. I'm done being the backup plan. I'm done pretending this is normal." My mother shook her head. "Ava, please." "No," I said firmly. "You created this. You enabled this. And now she has to face the consequences." "Consequences?" my mother whispered, horrified. "You're going through with the charges, yes." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "This will tear the family apart." "It was already torn," I said quietly. "I just stopped pretending the pieces still fit." I turned toward the door. My father stepped forward, but I lifted my hand to stop him. "Don't," I said. "Not today." My mother's trembling voice followed me down the hall. "Ava, wait. There's something you don't know about that night." I paused at the doorway, my hand resting on the cool brass handle. I didn't look back. "What don't I know?" I asked. My mother hesitated, then whispered, "She wasn't alone." My heartbeat stumbled. "What do you mean?" But she shook her head, tears streaking her face. "Just be careful." The warning lingered in the air like smoke. I walked out of the house, the door clicking shut behind me, knowing with absolute certainty that nothing between us would ever be the same again. I sat in my car in their driveway long after the engine stopped ticking, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from collapsing. My mother's last words. "She wasn't alone," echoed in my skull, looping over and over until the meaning twisted into something darker. I stared straight ahead, unable to turn the key, unable to start the car, unable to breathe normally. It felt like the world around me had tilted. If Chelsea hadn't been alone, then whoever she was with had also been inside my BMW. Someone I didn't know. Someone she didn't want me to know about. Someone connected to people who made threats, as my father had quietly confessed. Fear crept into my spine, subtle but cold, the kind that feels like a warning. I forced myself to inhale deeply, then another. Finally, with trembling hands, I started the engine and pulled away from the house. I didn't drive home. I couldn't be alone with those words rattling around inside my head. Instead, I drove to a quiet parking lot near a small lakeside park, the kind of place where people walked dogs and jogged in the mornings, but no one lingered long during the day. I sat there staring at the rippled surface of the water, letting time pass without noticing. Eventually, my phone buzzed with a message from Officer Ramirez. "Update. Working with Rock Hill PD to locate your sister. We'll keep you posted." I read the message twice, then typed back, "My parents said she wasn't alone when she took my car. Should I be worried?" Her reply came quickly. "Thank you for telling me. Yes, that matters. I need you to come to the station when you can. We should talk." My stomach tightened. I didn't want to go. I didn't want any of this to be real. But avoiding it wouldn't make it disappear. So I shifted the car into gear and headed toward the station. The police building looked sterile and intimidating, a block of concrete and glass standing against a gray sky. When I walked inside, the fluorescent lights hummed faintly. Ramirez met me near the front desk, her expression more serious than I'd seen before. "Let's step into my office," she said. Inside, she closed the door and gestured for me to sit. "Tell me exactly what your mother said," she instructed. I repeated the conversation word for word. Ramirez listened without interrupting, but I could see her jotting mental notes behind her controlled expression. "She wasn't alone," I said again. "My mother wouldn't explain further. Did your parents mention anyone else by name?" "No." "They looked scared." "And have you been scared too?" I hesitated, then nodded. "That's normal," Ramirez said. "But we need facts." "Your sister may have been involved with people who use stolen vehicles for more than transportation. There are cases where cars are used to move drugs, cash stolen goods, or weapons. If your BMW shows signs of interior impact, which it does, that could indicate something was inside the vehicle that someone didn't want found." A chill spread through my body. "So I could be in danger." "We don't know yet," she said honestly. "But I want you to be cautious. Change your locks. Don't answer your door at night. Keep your phone on you, and let us handle the rest." I nodded slowly. "Your sister abandoned the vehicle," Ramirez continued, "which suggests panic, not planning. People who work with criminals don't abandon stolen property unless something went wrong." I swallowed. Something like what she may have been pressured, threatened, or she may have been trying to get away from whoever was with her. "That doesn't make me feel better," I whispered. "It shouldn't," Ramirez said bluntly. "But it does make it more important that you stay out of it. Do not contact your sister. Do not contact anyone your sister knows. Focus on protecting yourself." For a moment, I just stared at her. The truth was clear in her tone, even before she spoke it aloud. "You were dragged into something you didn't consent to," she said gently. "You're a victim in this case, legally, emotionally, financially. We're going to make sure you're safe." The word victim stung in a way I hadn't expected. I wasn't used to being seen as someone who needed help. I'd always been the one supporting others, shoring up broken structures, smoothing the pieces, so no one got hurt except me. When the meeting ended, Ramirez walked me to the front. As I stepped into the cold air, a weight settled deeper into me. Everything felt too big to hold. I drove home cautiously, scanning the mirrors more often than usual. Every car behind me looked suspicious. Every pedestrian seemed like they were watching. By the time I reached my apartment, my nerves were frayed. I locked the door behind me, then checked it twice. The silence inside felt oppressive. I turned on the lights, needing brightness. But the quiet didn't comfort me. It made me aware of how alone I was. I paced the living room, trying to shake the feeling of being watched. Then I forced myself to sit and breathe. I needed certainty. Something solid. Something I could control. My phone buzzed again, this time a voicemail notification. The number wasn't saved in my contacts, but the area code was familiar: Rock Hill. Dread prickled across my skin. I pressed play. At first, all I heard was static and muffled noise. Then a voice, low, slurred, angry. "Ava, you think you're better than everyone. You think calling the cops is going to fix anything. You just made everything worse. They're pissed. I'm pissed. And you know what? Whatever happens next, that's on you, Chelsea." Her voice sounded distorted, scared, almost frantic. Then the message ended abruptly. My breath froze in my chest. Not because she was angry, I'd heard her angry plenty of times before, but because of the way she said they're pissed. They, whoever she had been with, whoever she owed, whoever she had brought into my car. Before I could fully process the message, another voicemail alert popped up. Same number. I pressed play without hesitating. This one was quieter. The background noise was a car engine revving unevenly. "Ava, I messed up. I messed up bad. I didn't mean for this to happen. Please don't let them." A sharp sound cut her off like something hitting the dashboard. Male voices shouted in the background, too muffled to understand. Chelsea gasped sharply, then the line went dead. My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped the phone. I replayed the voicemail, listening for clues, words, tones, anything, but all it did was deepen the dread. The third voicemail came minutes later, as if taunting me. This one was only 3 seconds long, breathing, fast, panicked, then a whisper, "Don't trust them." The message clicked off. My legs gave out, and I sank onto the couch, gripping the fabric tightly. Who was I not supposed to trust? The police. My parents. Someone else entirely. My pulse raced so fast I felt lightheaded. I forced myself to inhale slowly through my nose, exhale through my mouth. But the panic kept creeping, tightening its grip. Before I could slide into full terror, I pressed the call button on Ramirez's card. She answered on the second ring. "Ava, I got voicemails," I said breathlessly. "From her, from my sister. I think she's in danger." "Calm down," Ramirez said, though her voice sharpened with urgency. "Tell me exactly what the messages said." I repeated each one word for word, trying to ignore how my voice trembled. When I finished, Ramirez was silent for several seconds. "Do not delete those voicemails," she finally said. "They could be important evidence." Is she okay?" "We don't know yet," she said carefully. "But this confirms she's not acting alone, and that whoever she's with may be involved in criminal activity." I closed my eyes, nausea rolling through me. "Should I be scared?" I whispered. "Ava," she replied, voice firm but kind. "I want you to stay somewhere safe tonight, not your apartment. Do you have a friend or coworker you trust?" I thought of Denise. Her warm smile, her concern. How she had fed me dinner as if she instinctively knew I hadn't eaten. "Yes," I said. "Good. Pack a small bag, leave your apartment within 10 minutes and go there. Call me when you arrive." I stood slowly, the world feeling both heavy and hollow beneath my feet. "Officer Ramirez, yes." "What if they come looking for me?" "Then we'll handle it," she said. "But right now you need to leave." I hung up, grabbed my keys, and threw a few essentials into a backpack: wallet, charger, toothbrush, a change of clothes. My hands shook the whole time. Before stepping outside, I paused at the door, listening for footsteps in the hall. Silence. I cracked the door open and peered out. Nothing. Still, my heart pounded as I walked to the elevator. Every sound felt amplified, every shadow deepened. When I reached my car, I looked around the lot carefully. A dark sedan sat 2 rows away with tinted windows. It didn't move. No one stepped out. Still, I rushed into the driver's seat and locked the doors immediately. The engine turned over and I pulled out of the lot, checking my mirrors again and again. I drove toward Denise's neighborhood, gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. I didn't know where Chelsea was. I didn't know who she was with. I didn't know what they wanted from her or from me. But I knew one thing for certain. This was no longer about a stolen car. Something darker had slipped into the edges of my life. And it wasn't going away. Denise opened her front door before I even knocked, her face tightening with worry when she saw the state I was in. I must have looked pale wild around the edges, my backpack slung over one shoulder like I'd run straight from danger. "Ava, what happened? I need to stay here tonight," I said, my voice thin. "I'll explain, I promise, but can I come in?" "Of course," she said, immediately stepping aside. "Get inside." Her house smelled like vanilla candles and fresh laundry, warm and comforting in a way my apartment hadn't felt in days. The lights were soft enough that my eyes stung for a moment as I took off my coat and dropped my bag by the entryway. "Sit down," she said, guiding me to the couch. "I'll get you water. You look like you're about to pass out." I probably was. My hands hadn't stopped trembling since the last voicemail. While she stepped away, I inhaled shakily, trying to steady my breathing. The quiet murmur of her kitchen faucet felt grounding. She returned with a glass and set it gently in my hands. "Okay," she said softly. "Tell me everything." I took a sip, then another before I could force myself to speak. My sister called, I whispered. 3 voicemails. She sounded drunk, panicked. And she said, the words stuck in my throat. Denise waited patient steady. She said there were people with her, people who were angry, people she owed something to. And then in the last message she said, don't trust them. Denise's eyes widened. Don't trust who I don't know. My voice cracked. My parents, the police, her friends. Whoever was in my car. I don't know anything anymore. I curled forward, elbows on my knees, hands covering my face. Everything felt too much, too loud inside my head, too quiet outside it. A storm pressing against glass. Denise rubbed slow circles between my shoulders. The gesture nearly undid me. You did the right thing by coming here, she whispered. You're safe. Safe. The word felt foreign. I also need to tell you something else, I said after a moment. My parents admitted Chelsea wasn't alone when she took my BMW. Denise froze. You're kidding. I wish I were. She sat back processing. Okay, that explains a lot. But what does that mean for you? I swallowed. Officer Ramirez wants me to stay away from my apartment for a while. Good. You'll stay here as long as you need. She didn't hesitate, didn't flinch, didn't ask for details. My guest room is made up. I'll get extra blankets. I exhaled shakily, overwhelmed by her kindness. While she stepped away again, I checked my phone. Ramirez hadn't called back yet. My parents had tried again, 3 missed calls. Chelsea had left a text this time, don't do anything stupid. They're watching. My skin crawled. I locked my phone screen and placed it face down. When Denise returned, she handed me a folded blanket and sat across from me. Start from the beginning, she said gently. Everything. I want to understand. So I told her from the moment I discovered the empty parking space to the police report to the impound lot to the confrontation with my parents. I didn't spare any detail. I didn't sugarcoat anything. By the time I finished, her face was a mix of anger, disbelief, and protective worry. Your sister, she said slowly, has dragged you into something dangerous. And your parents let her? I nodded numb. But Ava... She leaned forward, her voice soft but firm. This isn't your fault. You didn't create this. You're not responsible for her choices or the people she's involved with. I wanted to believe her. But part of me kept replaying Chelsea's last voicemail. You just made everything worse. As if I had set this nightmare in motion. Denise must have seen the doubt in my expression because she said, listen to me, your sister is spiraling. And spiraling people blame anyone within reach. You're not the cause. You're simply the one who refuses to sync with her. Her words hit something deep, something tired, something wounded. I wrapped the blanket around my shoulders, suddenly exhausted. Come on, she said softly. Let's move to the guest room. You need to rest. The room was small but warm, with pale yellow walls and soft white bedding. A simple lamp glowed on the nightstand. I sank into the mattress, and it felt like the first safe place I had touched since this began. Denise paused at the doorway. If you need anything, water, food, someone to sit with you, just knock. Thank you, I whispered. She gave me a small, encouraging smile. You're safe here. After she left the room, was quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't threaten to swallow you but holds you gently. Still, my mind refused to rest. I stared at the ceiling, listening to my own heartbeat too loud in the stillness. Finally, I forced myself to call Ramirez. She answered immediately. Are you with your friend? Yes. I'm at Denise's. Good. Stay there tonight, maybe longer. Has there been any update? Not yet. We're working with multiple departments. Rock Hill PD found a vehicle that may be connected to your sister's last known location, but it wasn't your BMW. It was another car, an older sedan traced back to a man with a record. My blood chilled. Did Chelsea know him? It appears so. I swallowed hard. Is she in danger, Ava? Your sister is volatile, but she's not stupid. She'll come forward when things get too dangerous. What if she can't? I whispered. Silence hung for a moment. Ava Ramirez finally said, choosing her words, "We will do everything we can. But I don't want you contacting her. Let us handle it." "Okay." My voice was small. "And Ava, yes, you're doing the right thing. Don't back down now." I hung up and placed the phone on the nightstand. I lay there for a long time staring into the dim light. Outside, a car passed down the street, headlights sweeping briefly across the room. Someone's dog barked in the distance, life going on as if mine hadn't cracked open. I didn't know when I finally fell asleep, but I woke up at 3:12 a.m. to a sound. A vibration, my phone. I sat up sharply, heart pounding. The screen lit the room faintly. Unknown number. Hands shaking, I pressed play on the voicemail. A whisper filled the room. "Ava, please, don't let them find me." My breath caught. Then a man's voice, rough and angry, snapped something in the background. Chelsea gasped. A rustling, a cry muffled abruptly. Then silence. Then the line disconnected. I sat frozen, my heart thundering. Somewhere in the darkness, my sister was running from something or someone, and whatever she had dragged into my life was not done with her, or with me. I pressed a hand to my mouth, stifling a sob. Because in that instant, one truth became impossible to deny. This wasn't about family anymore. This was survival. And the worst part, I wasn't sure who I was supposed to fear more. The strangers she was involved with, or the sister I had once loved, now unraveling in the shadows between every voicemail. I reached for my phone again, and this time I didn't hesitate before dialing Officer Ramirez back. Something had shifted, something irreversible, and I knew down to the marrow of my bones that this story was spiraling far beyond a stolen car. It was only just beginning. I sat on the edge of the guest bed with my phone pressed to my ear, waiting for Officer Ramirez to answer. The voicemail from Chelsea kept replaying in my mind, her panicked breathing, the muffled cry, the man's voice cutting through the static. By the time Ramirez picked up, I was shaking so hard I had to hold the phone with both hands. "What happened?" she asked immediately. "She called again," I whispered. Another voicemail. She sounded terrified. "There was a man yelling. I think someone grabbed her." Silence stretched for half a beat. "Are you safe right now?" Ramirez asked. "Yes," I said. "I'm at my friend's house." "Good. Stay there. I'm sending someone to collect the voicemail and check in." "Officer, what if something happens to her?" Ramirez's tone softened. "Ava, listen to me. We don't know what's going on yet. But these messages suggest your sister is not in control of the situation. That means we treat this as a potentially serious case." "What does that mean?" "It means this may involve coercion, trafficking, or criminal activity beyond the stolen car. We're escalating it." My breath stilled. "Trafficking." "It's just one possibility," she said carefully. "I don't want you jumping to conclusions. But whatever is happening, we have to proceed carefully." I pressed my free hand against my forehead, trying to contain the sudden wave of dizziness. "Someone will call you within the hour," she said. "Don't leave the house. Don't answer unknown numbers. And for your own safety, don't try to contact your sister again." After we ended the call, I set my phone down and stared at the wall. The guest room was quiet, but my thoughts raced violently. Denise must have heard me pacing because she appeared in the doorway, hair pulled into a messy bun, eyes full of concern. What happened? I sat on the bed and explained everything, the voicemail, the yelling, the strange escalation. She sat beside me, hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Oh, Ava," she breathed out slowly. "This is bigger than anything I imagined. Ramirez thinks she might be in real danger," I said, "and that whoever she was with might be involved in something criminal." Denise's face hardened. "Your parents should have told you the truth earlier." My chest tightened painfully. I didn't respond. We sat in silence for a moment until Denise reached over and squeezed my hand. "You're not alone in this. I'm right here." The warmth of her touch steadied me. I nodded, blinking away the sting in my eyes. A knock sounded downstairs, startling both of us. It's okay, Denise whispered, seeing my panic. The doorbell camera will show us. We pulled up the feed on her phone. A uniformed officer stood on the porch. Relief washed through me. 5 minutes later, he'd copied the voicemail recordings and asked a series of questions: my relationship with Chelsea, her history, her friends, any known conflicts. I felt ashamed admitting how little I knew about her life now. She hides things I said quietly. My parents enabled her. She only ever came to me when she needed something. The officer nodded sympathetically. We see that pattern a lot. After he left, Denise and I settled back on the couch. Neither of us turned on the TV. Neither spoke much. We just existed in the uneasy waiting. Around noon, my phone vibrated again with a number I recognized instantly. My father. Denise watched me anxiously as I answered. Dad? His voice was tight, thinner than I'd ever heard it. Ava, we need to talk. My pulse jumped. What's going on? He hesitated. That terrified me more than anything. Your mother and I went to Chelsea's apartment this morning. The door was open. Cold dread poured through me. Was she there? No, he said, voice trembling. But her place was destroyed. Furniture overturned, cabinets open, things thrown everywhere. We called the police. A tremor ran through me. Denise moved closer, listening. Dad, I whispered, is she alive? We don't know, he said, barely holding composure. But I think you should come home so we can talk face to face. No, I said instantly. I'm not walking into anything without knowing what's happening. He exhaled shakily. Ava, she was in trouble. More trouble than we realized. You mean the people she owed money to? I demanded. He paused too long. Yes. The silence between us stretched, something sharp and heavy hanging inside it. What did she get involved in? I asked. You have to tell me. His answer came softly broken. She was moving things for people, items, packages. She said it was just favors for friends, but we knew better. My mouth went dry. Drugs. We don't know, he insisted quickly. But she was scared. She owed money. She said she had no way out. So you gave her my car, I said bitterly, to help her run. Ava, you helped her steal from me. You helped her disappear. And now she might be. My voice cracked. Dad's voice trembled. We never wanted you in danger. We thought, if we acted fast, we could fix it before you found out. A sound escaped me, half sob, half disbelief. You didn't protect me. You exposed me. There was a shuffling noise on his end. Then my mother came on the line. Ava, she said, her voice trembling. We didn't know things would go this far. Yes, you did, I said. You just didn't care. She inhaled sharply, wounded. We've made mistakes, but she's your sister. She's in danger. We need to come together as a family. No, I said coldly. You need to tell the police everything. That's how this gets fixed. My mother's silence spoke volumes. You didn't tell them everything, did you? Still silence. You're protecting her even now. Ava, she finally whispered, she's our daughter. So am I said. But that never seemed to matter. I hung up before she could respond, my hands trembling. Denise sat beside me, jaw tight. Ava, this isn't just a family crisis anymore. This is criminal. I know, I whispered. What are you going to do? I stared at my phone, the weight of everything crashing down at once. I'm going to tell the police everything, every detail, every voicemail, every lie my parents ever covered. They need the truth if they're going to find her. Denise nodded. And I'll be with you every step. I took a long breath, grounding myself. Before I could say anything else, my phone buzzed again, this time a text. Unknown number. My blood ran cold as I read the message. Stop talking to the police. You're next. My breath seized. Denise saw the look on my face. Ava. What is it? I handed her the phone. Her eyes widened. Oh my God. My pulse hammered against my ribs. The air around me felt thick, suffocating, charged with danger. Someone knew where I was. Someone was watching. Someone who wasn't Chelsea. I stood, every nerve in my body firing at once. This isn't just about her anymore, I whispered. They think I know something. Denise reached for me. Ava. But I already knew what the text meant. Whoever they were, whatever Chelsea had been involved in, they weren't done. Not with her. Not with me. And the storm I'd been pushed into wasn't just close now. It was here. The moment I read the text, "You're next," the room seemed to shrink around me. The air felt thin, my heartbeat too loud in my ears. Denise grabbed my shoulders, grounding me, her voice steady even though her eyes were wide with alarm. "Ava, look at me. We're calling the police right now." I nodded, unable to speak. My hands shook as I dialed Officer Ramirez. She picked up instantly, her voice clipped and alert, as if she'd already sensed something was wrong. "What happened?" "I just got a message," I said, my voice trembling. "A threat. From an unknown number. Read it to me." I swallowed hard. It said, "Stop talking to the police, you're next." There was a sharp inhale on the other end of the line, controlled, professional, but unmistakably serious. "Ava, listen to me very carefully," Ramirez said. "You are not safe at your apartment, and you're not safe alone. I'm sending officers to your location. Do not leave the house. Do not go near windows. Stay with your friend." I nodded, then said out loud, "Okay, put your phone on silent. Keep the ringer off. Turn off any location services. And Ava, whatever you do, don't respond to that number." I ended the call, feeling the room tilt slightly under my feet. Denise guided me toward the interior hallway, away from the front windows. She switched on a soft lamp, her face tight with concern. "You're staying right here," she said firmly. I nodded again, the numbness spreading deeper. My body felt too small to contain everything happening inside it. Minutes stretched long. The quiet felt like pressure. Every sound outside the occasional car engine, a dog barking down the street, seemed amplified. Denise sat beside me. "Do you want some water?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. My blood froze. Denise's eyes widened. "Don't check it." But I already saw the preview flash on the screen. "Should have kept your mouth shut." My stomach lurched. "Ava," Denise whispered, "put the phone down." I placed it face down on the couch, breathing fast and shallow. My pulse thudded so hard it made my fingers tingle. Denise grabbed her own phone, opening the doorbell camera app again. Nothing. Empty street. Stillness. "Whoever it is," she said softly, "they're trying to scare you. That's what people like this do. But you're not alone. And the police are coming." I tried to nod, but tears stung my eyes. Not from fear, though fear throbbed through me, but from a deeper pain. "I never wanted any of this," I whispered. "I just wanted my car back." Denise squeezed my hand. "I know." A soft knock at the door sent both of us jolting upright. Denise quickly checked the camera feed, 2 officers standing on the porch, badges visible. She exhaled shakily. "It's them." When she opened the door, the officers stepped inside, swiftly scanning the living room, the windows, the entryway. "Ms. Larson," one asked, turning to me. I stood slowly. "Yes." He nodded. "We're here to stay outside the house until we can move you to a safer location. Detective Ramirez is on her way to speak with you." Is someone after me?" I asked, voice thin. "We're treating this as a credible threat," he said. "But you're not alone, and we're not going to let anything happen to you." He positioned himself near the window while the other officer moved toward the back door. Denise hovered nearby, watching everything with wide, fearful eyes. I sat back down on the couch and pulled the blanket tighter around my shoulders. A few minutes later, the front door opened again. I looked up and saw Detective Ramirez, her expression grave. "Ava," she said, stepping toward me. "Let's sit." Denise gave us space, though she stayed close enough that I could feel her presence like a safety net. Ramirez leaned forward, elbows on her knees, speaking gently but directly. "We traced the number that texted you. It's a burner phone, unregistered, prepaid, likely purchased with cash. That's common for people who don't want to be tracked." I felt the room sway a little. "This person," she continued, "is likely connected to whoever your sister was with. That means you are now a possible target." My throat tightened painfully. Because she used my car, partly Ramirez said. But more importantly, you filed a police report. You made her disappearance official. You turned what they thought was a private escape into a public investigation. My breath quickened. And they don't like attention, she added quietly. People who operate in illegal networks rely on anonymity. You disrupted that. A tear slid down my cheek. So what happens now? You're going to be moved to a secure location. Tonight. My heart thudded. A secure location? Yes, somewhere these individuals cannot reach you, somewhere only law enforcement knows. My voice trembled. Like witness protection. Not exactly, but similar concept. She paused, searching my face. Ava, this is no longer just about property damage or stolen vehicles. This has escalated into a criminal investigation involving potential threats, coercion, and possibly violent offenders. I swallowed, and Chelsea Ramirez hesitated before answering. We believe your sister was taken against her will. The words punched the air out of my lungs. No, I whispered. No, she's made terrible decisions, but she's not someone people take. We reviewed the voicemails, she said softly. The fear in her voice was real. The man shouting wasn't someone arguing with a friend. It was someone exerting control. My chest ached. Is she alive? We don't know, Ramirez admitted. But we're doing everything we can to find her. Tears slipped down my cheeks. Denise sat beside me again, wrapping her arm around my shoulders. I leaned into her without thinking, overwhelmed by grief and terror tangled into one. Why did they threaten me? I asked shakily. Because you're the only one who stood up, Ramirez said. And because they may believe you know something that could hurt them. But I don't. They don't know that, she said. Criminals don't operate on truth. They operate on fear. My hands trembled in my lap. So what do I do? You follow our instructions exactly, she said firmly. You don't go home, you don't contact your family, you don't post anything online. You stay out of sight until we isolate the threat. I nodded slowly. And Ava, she added. Yes, you're stronger than you think. You did the right thing reporting your car stolen, and you did the right thing calling us today. That's why you're still safe. Her words cracked something inside me. A tiny breath of relief. A glimmer of permission to not blame myself for every piece of this nightmare. We'll leave in 10 minutes, she said, standing. Grab anything essential. Only what you can carry. I wiped my eyes and stood on shaky legs. Denise followed me into the guest room. I'll come with you, she said. No, I murmured. You've done enough. I can't pull you into this. She crossed her arms. Too late. I'm already in it. I almost laughed an exhausted emotional sound before hugging her tightly. Thank you, I whispered. Always, she replied. When I returned to the living room with my backpack, Ramirez waited by the door, flanked by 2 officers. The house felt smaller now, almost fragile. Ready, she asked. No. But I nodded anyway. As we stepped onto the porch, the cold air hit my face. The street was quiet, the world deceptively calm. But under the surface, something dangerous was moving, pulling me into a story I had never agreed to be part of. A black unmarked car idled at the curb. The back door opened. Ava Ramirez said, gently guiding me forward, "We're going to keep you safe." One step at a time. I slid into the back seat, clutching my bag, heart pounding. As the door closed and the car pulled away, I watched Denise's house disappear from view. I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know what would happen next. But I knew one thing with cold, startling clarity. My sister's choices had ignited something violent. And now the flames were coming for me. The safe house was nothing like I imagined. I'd pictured a bunker maybe, or a dim motel room tucked behind a highway exit, but instead the unmarked car pulled up to a modest 2-story brick townhouse on a quiet cul-de-sac. Porch lights glowed softly. Wind chimes clinked in the breeze. A wreath hung neatly on the front door. It looked like the kind of place where neighbors waved to each other and borrowed sugar. A slice of life completely at odds with the fear twisting inside my ribs. "This is one of our protected residences," Officer Ramirez said as she stepped out of the car. "You'll be safe here." Safe. The word felt foreign, almost insulting. But I followed her up the walkway, gripping my backpack strap like a lifeline. 2 additional officers flanked us, scanning the street with trained eyes. Inside, the air smelled faintly of lavender and lemon cleaner. A small lamp glowed in the living room, casting warm light across the furniture, simple, functional, untouched. The blinds were already drawn. "Sit," Ramirez said, gently motioning to the couch. "I'll brief you." I lowered myself onto the cushions, suddenly aware of how exhausted I was, emotionally, physically, in every way a person could feel worn down. She sat across from me, placing her folder on the coffee table between us. She didn't open it. For a moment, she just looked at me with a soft, assessing expression. "You've been incredibly strong through all of this." I let out a dry breath. "I don't feel strong." "That's usually how it feels," she said. "But strength isn't a feeling. It's what you keep doing anyway." I swallowed hard. She clasped her hands. "I'm going to tell you where we are in the investigation, and it's going to be difficult to hear, but you deserve the truth." My pulse quickened. I nodded, bracing myself. First, she began, "We have reason to believe your sister didn't just get involved with the wrong crowd. She became part of a criminal transport ring." My stomach dropped. "Transport? What drugs money?" "Both are possibilities," Ramirez said. "But we've seen groups like this use ordinary citizens, usually vulnerable young adults with financial trouble, to move stolen goods or deliver packages that can't be tracked." "And she used my car," I whispered. "Yes, your BMW was clean, new, registered to someone with a stable job and no criminal history. That made it valuable to them." My breath hitched. Did Chelsea know what she was doing? Ramirez didn't answer right away. When she spoke, her voice softened. "We believe she got in far deeper than she planned. The panicked voicemails support that." A hollow ache opened inside my chest, a mixture of grief and betrayal that felt impossible to untangle. "So she wasn't helping a friend," I said. "She was being used," or both, Ramirez said. "But somewhere along the line, things went wrong. And when people like this lose trust in one of their runners, they lash out." A chill crawled over my skin. "What about the men in the voicemail?" I asked. "Do you know who they are?" "We're tracing the voices," she said. "We've isolated a few keywords from audio analysis. Accents, tone, slang patterns. We're coordinating with narcotics and organized crime units. But this is going to take time. Time. The one thing Chelsea didn't sound like she had." My throat tightened. "Do you think she's alive?" "We don't know," she said quietly. Something inside me cracked. "I don't want her to die," I said in a small, broken voice. "We've fought our whole lives, but I don't want her gone." Ramirez leaned forward. "We're doing everything possible." "But Ava, babying her won't help her now. We need facts, not guilt." I nodded, wiping tears from my cheeks. She continued. "Second update, we traced the burner phone that texted you. It pinged off a tower 3 miles from Rock Hill before going dark. That suggests mobility. Whoever sent it wanted you scared enough to stay silent but alive long enough to receive the warning." "Why warn me?" I asked. "Why not just come after me? Because threats are leverage," she said. "Hurting you wouldn't help them." "Not yet." I shivered. "And third," she said, her tone shifting slightly, "your parents contacted us." My breath caught. What did they say? They confessed to giving your sister the key, to knowing she was involved with dangerous people, to hiding incidents from us. They're ashamed even if they didn't say the words. I closed my eyes. The image of my mother crying, insisting she was protecting Chelsea, flashed behind my eyelids. "Are they in trouble?" I asked. "Potentially," Ramirez said. "Obstruction, withholding information, aiding after the fact. But our priority is finding your sister and neutralizing the threat. Everything else comes later." I nodded numbly. And now she said, voice gentler again, "I need you to tell me anything, and I mean anything you remember. Conversations, comments, little details, things she borrowed, people she mentioned, places she stayed. Anything." I stared at my hands for a long moment. There was one thing I murmured. In the voicemail. She said, "Don't trust them." Who do you think she meant? I don't know, I said. But the way she said it, it didn't sound like she meant strangers. It sounded personal. Ramirez's eyes sharpened. Personal, how like she meant people I know. My parents' faces flashed in my mind again. My mother's trembling denial, my father's guilt. Ramirez's voice softened. Ava, is there any chance your parents were involved in her activities? Even unintentionally? No, I said automatically. Then softer, I don't think so. But uncertainty wormed its way through me. My parents had been hiding things, protecting her, making deals they never told me about. They tried to cover for her, I admitted, for years. But I don't think they meant harm. Someone can cause harm without intending to, Ramirez said. A deep ache throbbed behind my ribs. Everything in my life felt upside down, inside out, twisted into shapes I didn't recognize. Ramirez stood. Let me show you the room where you'll be staying. I followed her down a short hallway to a small bedroom with a twin bed, fresh sheets, a desk, and a tiny window with the blinds pulled tight. It reminded me of a cabin on a ship, compact, safe, temporary. You'll stay here tonight, she said. Maybe longer. There's a camera outside the house and officers will patrol the street. I nodded, absorbing everything. You're not a prisoner, she added. You're under protection. But I need to emphasize, don't leave without telling us. I won't, I said. And if your phone buzzes, she added, let us know. Don't respond. I almost laughed. I don't plan on talking to anyone, I know, she said gently. But fear makes people unpredictable. Even victims, especially victims. Her words lingered long after she left the room. When the house finally settled into silence, I sat on the bed and pulled my legs to my chest. The room was warm, but I felt cold anyway. I thought of Chelsea, my loud, reckless, impulsive sister. The way she used to braid my hair when we were little. The way she always joked too loudly at the wrong moment. The way she slammed doors when she was angry and hugged too tightly when she was scared. I didn't want to lose her, even after everything she'd done. I stared at the blank wall, trying to imagine where she was, whether she was hurt, whether she was crying, whether she was thinking of me, or whether someone else was thinking for her. A soft knock at the door pulled me from my spiraling thoughts. Ramirez poked her head in. One more update. It's important. My heart thudded. What we found surveillance footage near the impound lot from the night your sister abandoned your BMW. My breath caught, and Ramirez stepped into the room fully. She wasn't alone, she said quietly. 2 men were with her. One remained with the car. The other forced her into a different vehicle. The world around me seemed to fade. No sound, no breath, just a cold, sharp truth sinking in. Kidnapped, I whispered. We're treating it as such, Ramirez said. I covered my mouth, tears streaming silently. Ava, she added, voice firm but gentle. This isn't your fault. None of this is your fault. But what happens next depends on everything we find. I nodded, sobs shaking through me because finally I understood the truth I'd been avoiding. My car hadn't just been a target. My sister had been. And I was now tangled in the aftermath of something far darker than I ever could have imagined. I woke the next morning with a start, unsure for a moment where I was. The walls were unfamiliar, the air too still, the sheets stiffer than my own. Then the memory hit the safe house, the threats, the footage of Chelsea being forced into a car, and I sat up too quickly, my heart pounding. A sliver of daylight leaked through the blinds. It was barely morning. My throat felt raw, my body heavy, as if fear itself had weight. I swung my legs over the edge of the bed and took a long breath before stepping into the hallway. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I found Officer Ramirez in the kitchen nursing a cup of coffee, scrolling through her tablet with a furrowed brow. She looked up when she heard me. Morning, she said gently. You didn't sleep much. I shook my head. Any updates? She set the tablet down. We may have a lead. Sit. I lowered myself into a chair, bracing. We reviewed more surveillance footage, she said. Your sister was forced into a black SUV. No plates. The vehicle turned onto Route 21 heading south. That puts it on a path toward several isolated rural zones. Rural... My stomach tightened, meaning less law enforcement. Meaning less visibility, she corrected carefully. But we're tracking patterns from similar cases. This group tends to use abandoned cabins, storage units, or remote rentals as temporary holding spots. There's a chance she's still in transit or being moved. Her words landed like blows. Is she alive? I whispered. We don't know, she said quietly. But there's no confirmed evidence of harm, and we're acting fast. I nodded numbly. My throat burned. Ava Ramirez said softly, I know this is overwhelming, but I need to ask you something. It may be uncomfortable. I swallowed. Okay. Do you know if Chelsea stored or transported anything before she took your BMW? Anything she hid in your apartment, your car, the trunk, anywhere? No, I said. Not that I know of. Think carefully, she urged. Even something small. A bag, a box. Something she took without explaining. I closed my eyes, searching my memory. Then it hit sharp, sudden. There was a tote bag, I said. In the back seat, torn open. The adjuster said it looked like something heavy had been in it. What shape, she asked, leaning forward. Rectangular, I breathed. Like a shoebox, maybe bigger. Any markings, I didn't look closely. I admitted guilt, tightening my chest. That's okay, she said. This helps. She clicked into her notes. This group often uses decoys, innocent-looking bags, carrying unregistered devices, cash bundles, or stolen tech. If the bag was torn open, someone may have been searching for something. So Chelsea didn't have it anymore, I said. Which means whoever forced her into that SUV probably thought she hid it. The blood in my veins felt icy. So they think she still has it, I whispered. Possibly, but she doesn't. She left it in my car. And that Ramirez said quietly, maybe why they threatened you. A chill shuddered through me so violently I had to grip the table. They think I have it, I whispered. It's a possibility, she said. Burner phones are used when criminals suspect evidence has gone missing. You are now seen as a loose end. I stared at her, shock stripping the air from my lungs. So, they might come after me because they think I have this box. She didn't sugarcoat it. Yes. My hands began to tremble. Ramirez reached across the table, her tone steady. But we are protecting you, and the more we know, the faster we can locate them. I nodded, though my body felt made of stone. Just then an officer stepped into the kitchen. Detective, there's someone at the door. Ramirez stood immediately, one hand instinctively moving toward her holster. Who? A woman, he said. Cried the whole way here. Says she's family. My blood ran cold. My mother, I whispered. Ramirez glanced at me. Do you want to see her? It's your call. I hesitated. My mother's voice echoed in my memory, pleading, defensive, desperate. But now she had driven here to the middle of nowhere because things had gone too far, even for her denial. I'll see her, I said quietly. The officer led us to the living room where my mother stood, wringing her hands. Her eyes were swollen, her hair unbrushed. When she saw me, she rushed forward, then stopped short, unsure whether she was allowed to touch me. Oh, Ava, she whispered. Thank God you're all right. I stood still, unsure how to respond. She broke into trembling sobs. I don't know what to do. Your sister, she's in trouble, real trouble, and your father is beside himself. We didn't know it would turn into this. We didn't know you knew enough, I said softly. She froze. You knew she was involved with dangerous people. You knew she owed money. You knew she wasn't alone with my car. And you lied to me. Her face crumpled. We were trying to protect her, and who protected me? My voice wavered. Who made sure I didn't end up kidnapped because she used my property? Tears slid down her cheeks. We didn't think they'd come after you. We thought if she got away, they'd forget about it. She didn't get away, I whispered. They took her. My mother's sobs deepened, her hands shaking uncontrollably. Ramirez stepped between us gently. "Mrs. Larson, do you understand that withholding information is interfering with an active investigation?" "Yes," she choked. "Yes, I know." "Then I need you to answer honestly," Ramirez said. "Who was your daughter involved with?" "We don't know names," she cried. "We just know they came around her apartment. Men, loud, angry. They said she owed a large amount of money. She told us she'd pay them back by running errands, deliveries." "What kind of deliveries?" Ramirez pressed. "She said it wasn't drugs," my mother whispered, her voice shaking. "But she wouldn't look me in the eye when she said it." My stomach twisted. "Did she ever mention being afraid?" I asked. My mother nodded slowly. "All the time. She said someone was watching her, that she messed up a job, that she had one last chance. She begged us not to tell anyone." "And you didn't," I said hollowly. "We thought she'd stop if she got back on her feet," my mother cried. "We thought giving her the BMW would buy her time." I closed my eyes. Hearing it out loud hurt more than I expected. Ramirez nodded once. "Mrs. Larson, we need you and your husband to give a full statement. This is no longer a missing person case. It's potentially abduction and organized crime involvement." My mother's breath hitched. "I'll do anything," she whispered. "Just find my daughter." Ramirez turned to me. "We're leaving in 10. "For what?" I asked. "A field check," she said. "We may have found the cabin where your sister was taken." The world dropped out beneath me. "So she's alive," I breathed. "We don't know," Ramirez said. "But we found tire tracks that match the SUV. And there's evidence of recent activity." My mother gasped, covering her mouth. I stood slowly, my legs trembling. "I want to come." "No," Ramirez said firmly. "It's not safe. She's my sister." "And she's in the hands of violent criminals," Ramirez replied. "If they think you have what they're looking for, you are the last person I can bring." I swallowed hard, fighting the sting of rejection, even though I knew she was right. "You'll stay here under surveillance," she said. "We'll contact you the moment we know anything." My mother grabbed my hand. "Ava, please, forgive us." I looked at her, not with anger, not with love, but with a devastating clarity. "I can't," I whispered. "Not yet." And for once, she didn't argue. Ramirez signaled to the officers. They guided my mother toward a separate car. As they pulled away, Ramirez turned back to me. "When we go out there," she said quietly, "we might not like what we find." My breath faltered. "But we might find her alive." "Yes," she said. "We might." Then she stepped out into the cold morning air. I stood at the window long after the cars disappeared down the road, my reflection pale against the glass. The house behind me was silent. Too silent. And for the first time, I allowed myself to whisper the truth out loud. I'm terrified. Because whatever they were about to find in that cabin, it would change everything. I spent the next 3 hours sitting on the edge of the safe house couch, staring at the wall as if it might give me answers. Every tick of the clock thudded through my chest. The house was quiet except for the distant hum of a vent and the occasional step of an officer patrolling outside. I kept my phone in my lap, gripping it like a lifeline, waiting for news I wasn't sure I wanted. At one point, I stood and paced the small living room until I felt dizzy, my hands clasped tightly behind my head. They had found a cabin where my sister might be, or might not. Every possibility tore through me like a blade. I sat again, stood again, sat again. Denise texted me repeatedly. "Are you okay?" "Eat something. I made soup and left it outside your door if they let me. I'm thinking of you. Please stay safe." I didn't respond right away. Words felt impossible. It wasn't until late afternoon that the safe house door opened and Officer Ramirez stepped inside, snow-dusting her jacket, her face pale with fatigue. She closed the door softly, and I knew before she spoke that the news wasn't simple. I stood. "Did you find her?" Her jaw tightened slightly. "Sit down, Ava." I sat slowly, my hands trembling. Ramirez took off her gloves and sank into the chair across from me, leaning forward with her elbows on her knees, as if she were bracing herself for the weight of what she had to say. "We found the cabin," she began. My heart lurched painfully. The SUV tracks matched the ones from the surveillance footage. The cabin was abandoned recently. There were signs of quick movement, a struggle and burn pits where documents or items had been destroyed. My vision blurred for a second. And Chelsea. "We didn't find her inside," she said gently. The world fell silent, a long, hollow thud in my ears. But before I could spiral, Ramirez reached out, steadying her voice. "Listen to all of it, okay? Don't panic yet." I swallowed, forcing myself to focus. "We found proof she'd been there," Ramirez continued. Hair ties, a torn sleeve from a jacket she was last seen wearing, and she paused. And what I whispered, a blood sample. Cold fear shot through me. "Hers. We're testing it," but there wasn't enough to suggest a critical injury, likely superficial, perhaps from hitting a corner or scraping against something. I pressed a shaking hand to my forehead. My breath trembled, but I clung to her words. Not enough to suggest a critical injury. "She was alive," I whispered. "She was alive when they took her there." Ramirez nodded. "Based on the footprints, it appears she was moved from the cabin to a different vehicle. That means she's being transported. That means she's worth something to them. And that," she said gently, "means she's likely alive." Relief hit so sharply it almost hurt. I blinked tears away. Why move her? Why not just leave her? My voice cracked. "Because they think she has something," Ramirez said. "Something she stole from them. Or something they lost. Something valuable." My chest tightened. "The missing package, most likely," she said. "Whatever was in that bag, they think she hid it or passed it off or stashed it somewhere." "And they think I have it," I whispered. Ramirez didn't deny it. "The burner phone threat suggests they believe she made contact with you. They think you might know where the item is even if you don't." I covered my face, shaking. "What am I supposed to do? I can't tell them something I don't know." "You're not going to talk to them," Ramirez said firmly. "You're under police protection." I nodded, tears slipping between my fingers. She waited until I dropped my hands before continuing. "There's more," she said. "We found a man at the cabin." My breath froze. He was... I couldn't finish the sentence. "Alive," she said. "Barely. And tied to a chair. Beaten." I exhaled shakily. "He's one of the men from the surveillance footage. Not the one who moved your sister, but the one who stayed with the BMW." My entire body went rigid. "He told us," Ramirez continued, "that your sister didn't betray them. She panicked. She hid the package because she was scared of what she was carrying. He said she planned to turn it over to the police but lost the opportunity when things escalated." "But what was she carrying?" I whispered. "Encrypted tech," she said. "A drive. Potentially stolen from a company with offshore ties. We still don't know what's on it. But it's important. Important enough to kill over." A shiver rippled through me. "Ava," she said softly, "this isn't just local crime. This is organized, multi-state, possibly international." I blinked hard. "And my sister is in the middle of it." "Yes." I clasped my hands together so tightly my knuckles hurt. "Why didn't she come to me? Why didn't she tell me?" "Because," Ramirez said gently, "she always thought you were the strong one, the good one, the responsible one. In her mind, she might have been protecting you." A sob caught in my throat. I tried to swallow it, but my voice cracked anyway. "But she dragged me into it." "She didn't mean to," Ramirez said. "She was scared. People do foolish things when they're scared. But from everything we've found, she tried to keep the danger away from you." I wiped my face, feeling both love and fury knotted inside my chest. "What now?" I whispered. Ramirez took a breath. "Now we negotiate." My eyes widened. "Negotiate?" "Yes," she said. "We're going to reach out to these people using controlled channels. We're going to imply we know more than we do. We'll use bait, create pressure, flush them out. And Chelsea." "She's leverage," Ramirez said quietly. But leverage works both ways. If they want the missing item badly enough, they'll keep her alive. I felt dizzy again. What about me? We're not using you, she said firmly. Not as bait, not as contact. You're under strict protection. You will stay here with officers outside until we locate the group's new position. I nodded, though fear twisted hard in my stomach. And Ava, she added softly, your parents are cooperating. They gave us names of people who called your sister, locations they remembered, bank statements, everything. I exhaled shakily. They're scared too. They should be, Ramirez said. But they're doing the right thing now. A long moment passed before another officer opened the door and stepped in. Detective, he said. We pulled the prints from the cabin. We have an ID on the second man. Ramirez stood. Who he's connected to a ring based in Atlanta, the officer said, and they have a pattern. They don't keep abductees long. They move them quickly to avoid detection. I felt my heart collapse and then rebuild in the span of a second. So she's still moving, Ramirez murmured. Good. That buys us time. Time. A tiny, fragile hope wedged itself inside the terror. When the officer left, Ramirez faced me again. Ava, this is the part where I need your full trust. Things are about to escalate. There will be more officers rotated here tonight. You might hear news you don't understand right away. But I need you to stay calm and stay put. I will, I whispered. Good. She started to leave, then paused. Your sister fought, she said softly. The signs at the cabin, she struggled. She didn't give up. That matters. It tells us she wants to live. My throat closed. And because of that, Ramirez said, we're going to do everything we can to bring her home. When she left the room, I sat on the edge of the bed, tears blurring my vision. For the first time in days, I let myself hope, not because the danger had passed, but because beneath all the chaos and destruction my sister had tried. She hadn't simply run. She had resisted. And maybe, just maybe, she was still resisting somewhere out there. Still alive. When the call finally came, I was sitting on the edge of the safe house bed with my knees drawn to my chest, staring at the same speck on the wall I had been staring at for nearly an hour. I didn't jump when the phone buzzed this time. My body was too tired for sudden movements. But when I saw Officer Ramirez's name flashing across the screen, something inside me clenched so tightly it hurt. I answered with a fragile breath. Hello, Ava, she said, her tone steady, in a way that made my heart race faster. We found her. The world narrowed to that single sentence, everything else blurring at the edges. Is she? My voice cracked. Is she alive? Yes, Ramirez said. She's alive. I closed my eyes as a sob ripped up my throat, too loud, too raw for how small the room felt. My hands covered my mouth as if I needed to keep that gasp contained. I didn't even realize I was shaking until I felt tears slide down my wrists. Where is she? I whispered. She's being transported to Carolina's medical center, Ramirez said. She's dehydrated, bruised, and disoriented, but conscious. She's asking for you. My knees buckled as I sank onto the mattress. Relief poured through me, warm and blinding and painful in a way I didn't know relief could be. I want to see her, I breathed. You will, Ramirez said gently, but we need to go over everything before you do. There are procedures, statements, security precautions. I nodded, wiping my face with the back of my hand. Just tell me what to do. I'll do anything. We're on our way to get you, she said. Be ready. I ended the call and pressed both palms against my eyes, letting myself feel the weight of it, the release, the fear, the raw, fragile joy. Denise must have heard something in my voice because seconds later she was knocking gently on the door. Ava. What happened? I looked up slowly, tears streaking down my cheeks. They found her. Her eyes widened, relief flooding her expression before she pulled me into a tight hug. Oh, thank God. Thank God. I clung to her, letting myself lean into the comfort just for a moment. I had forgotten what hope felt like. When the police convoy arrived, a plain car in front, another in back, 2 officers at my door, I grabbed my backpack and followed them outside. The morning air was crisp and still humming with the kind of quiet that comes after a storm, but before the world fully exhales. I climbed into the back seat, buckled in, and held my hands together so tightly they ached. The drive felt like a blur of lights and turns and silent tension. I didn't speak. I don't think anyone expected me to. My pulse thrummed in my ears like a second heartbeat, steady and urgent. When we pulled up to the hospital, Ramirez was waiting at the entrance. She walked me through a side door, her voice low. "She's stable. Weak, but stable. She told the officers she didn't think she'd ever get out. She didn't know if you were safe." The words hit hard. "She asked for me." "She did," Ramirez said softly. "She cried when she said your name." I breathed out slowly, feeling something unravel inside my chest. We took an elevator to the 4th floor. The hallway smelled like disinfectant and soft cotton sheets. Nurses moved with quiet urgency. Doctors spoke in hushed tones. Machines beeped steadily in the background. I didn't see my sister until we reached a room halfway down the corridor. The door was open, the lights dim. I stepped inside with careful, trembling steps. Chelsea lay on the hospital bed, thinner than I'd ever seen her, bruises blooming across her cheekbone and jaw. Her lip was split. An IV line ran into her arm. For a moment, she didn't notice me. She just stared ahead, eyes distant, as if she were still somewhere else. Then she blinked and looked toward the doorway. Our eyes met. Her face crumpled instantly. "Ava." She reached for me with a trembling hand. I crossed the room in seconds and took her hand in both of mine. It felt fragile, like holding a bird's wing. "You came," she whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I didn't know if you'd want to, but I hoped I'm here." I whispered, brushing hair from her forehead. "I'm right here." "I'm sorry," she breathed. "I'm so sorry for everything." Her voice broke on a sob. "I didn't mean to drag you into this. They told me, they said if I didn't run, they'd come after you. I didn't know what to do." Her words cut and healed in the same breath. All the anger, all the betrayal, all the fear I'd held, it didn't disappear, but it softened around the edges as I looked at her. My sister, flawed, reckless, chaotic, but mine. "You should have told me," I whispered. "I was scared," she sobbed. "I always get things wrong and you always get everything right. I didn't want you to see me fail again." "Oh, Chelsea." My voice trembled. "You didn't fail. You got trapped." She squeezed my hand weakly. "You saved me." "No," I said. "You fought. You stayed alive. That was you." But her eyes closed, her voice barely a breath. "I didn't do it alone." A nurse stepped in quietly. "She needs rest. She's stable, but her system is exhausted." I nodded and leaned down to kiss Chelsea's forehead. "Rest. I'll be here when you wake up." She exhaled shakily, then drifted into sleep. I stepped into the hallway, my legs trembling beneath me. Ramirez joined me, arms crossed lightly. "You did well in there," she said softly. She's really alive," I whispered, as if saying it aloud might shatter the moment. "She is. And she's going to recover." I wiped tears from my cheeks. "What happens now?" "Now," Ramirez said, "she gives a statement. We build a full case. We track the rest of the group." "And you?" She paused, studying me. "You get to breathe again." I let out a trembling laugh, the first one in days. "It still doesn't feel real." "It will," she said. "But it will take time." Trauma untangles slowly. I nodded, leaning against the wall for support. My body felt suddenly light and unbearably heavy at once. "Your parents are downstairs," Ramirez added. "They're shaken. They want to see you, but there's no pressure." I hesitated. "Maybe later." "That's fair," she said. "You've earned the right to set boundaries." Earned. The word warmed something inside me. For the first time since this nightmare began, I didn't feel powerless. I felt present, aware, awake. That evening, after Chelsea had been moved to recovery and the adrenaline had finally begun to ebb, I stepped outside the hospital for air. The sun was setting over Charlotte, turning the sky gold and pink. I took a long breath and let the cold air fill my lungs. Everything hurt. But everything was mine again. I wasn't running, I wasn't hiding, I wasn't waiting for someone else to decide my place in the family. I had done what was right, not easy, not gentle, not quiet, but right. And for the first time in my life, I knew exactly who I was. As I stood there watching the city lights begin to flicker on, I realized something important. I couldn't change the family I came from, but I could choose the family I built. I could choose peace. I could choose safety. I could choose myself. And that, after everything, was its own kind of justice. If you stayed with me through this journey, thank you. Stories like this, stories of survival, healing complicated families, and the thin lines between fear and courage are heavy, but they matter. If you've ever faced a moment that forced you to choose yourself, or if you've lived through a storm that reshaped you, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. If this chapter moved, you consider liking the video so others can find it too. And if you want to join me for more stories about justice, healing, and reclaiming your voice, don't forget to subscribe. Your story matters, and I'm grateful you're here.